race, the Honda Civic Type R EK Touring Car, and we are going to be in for an absolute showcase of racing action, which will be brought to you with us. My name is Jake Sperry, Adam Reed, along with me for the ride here today. And Adam, we walk in knowing that Ayrton Birmingham and his lead, which he has held since the start of this championship, now remains at a very similar point to as it was when we were here 2 weeks ago. They've had a lot of time to prepare at a track that is a very known quantity.
Hi, Jake. Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this race is going to turn out. I think there's going to be a lot of ups and downs during the course of these two races that are ahead of us. Of course, we are at the beautiful Brands Hatch Racing Circuit, situated down in Kent in the UK. So, of course, very well known for its touring car racing. Of course, hosted the British Touring Cars Championship finale around the GP circuit, around this layout that we're going to be using, in fact, for the last couple of years, almost a decade straight. I think they've gone to Brands Hatch for. So really interesting to see. It feels so right to have a touring car at the Brands Hatch GP circuit. So I think a lot of our drivers are going to be really looking forward to this circuit, as well as I'm sure both of us for sure will be very much excited to see what the elevation and and of course the characteristics of Brands Hatch hold for our drivers.
Yeah, it's a really important battleground, and let's just talk about what happened 2 weeks ago when we were there. But before we do that, in fact, no, we will do that. So that was how it looked then as they finished off proceedings then with the main results out, or the sprint results then. So race 2 of that day, the 6th race of the championship. Evan Birmingham coming across the line, picking up the victory and managing to do so fantastically. You look down through the order, Ayrton Birmingham picking up, I believe, 5 seconds worth of penalty, would drop him from 2nd down to 5th, and that's where the penalty points came into play, and that's why the championship looks different, because Jonathan Spiteri, being down 2 places, is now up 2 places by comparison, gaining that. Likes of John Paul Vella, Mark Mercieka, Jen Schmieg, George Parge, and Adrian Mercieka then finding the top 10 when all things were said and done. But the main results, which are out there, the first race, no shocks for Ayrton Birmingham, as he still holds that result that he got from race number 1 with Jonathan Spiteri and John Paul Vella there in 3rd. So it's important to remember here for all of these drivers, first race is where most of the points come along at the main. Then the sprint comes along, the reverse grid. And it's that reverse grid where you're more likely to see penalty points added.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're really hoping to get those good results in the first in the first race, and then just try and build a couple in the second race. It's going to be so difficult to try and get through that grid. We've seen so many times. Yes, you may be fast, but it is still a huge challenge to be able to get through that grid. And I'm sure that the championship will be shaking up, especially after that 2 results we've just seen.
Yeah, and those results are going to be important to note as we will go and get a little bit of understanding of the driver's standing. So it isn't, I would say, 100% out of the realms of possibility here for your front four. Ayrton Birmingham, 15 points clear of Jonathan Spiteri, and then 25 points clear of Christian Samet. So Christian Samet is still 1 race behind at this moment at 25. It's 23 maximum for a win in the main. And then you got John Paul Vella, who is back on 74 championship points. But they do have the ability to go and gather that back. All it takes is 1 or 2 bad rounds, and the door is wide open for everyone again. So I'd say it's not out of the realms of possibility. We've also got this fantastic 5-car scrap for 5th, with Osbert Zverev, Ivan Birmingham jumping up to 6th, George Parge, Denzel Adgis not having the greatest round in 8th, and then Jens Schmieg there in 9th position.
Yeah, it looks so close. We've kind of got 2 different groups of battles there, as you say. Let's talk about that kind of 5th down to 9th. That could really be anyone. They're really battling for some really top places, and if any has any sort of advantage, they'll have to take that baton and run with it. It's going to be so important to grab those vital points, and especially when they go into race 2. Yes, you may not be getting the same points you are as getting in race 1, but you are indeed still grabbing some well thought out points. And I think for a lot of those drivers, they'll just be aiming or 5th. There's no way they're going to be catching John Paul Vella up there, 30 points ahead with 4 races to go left of this cup. So they'll be really looking to hopefully just push on and try and just claim almost best of the rest, if you would. Let's go into that top 3, as you say. There you go. 25 points separating our top 3. That could switch either way. As you say, one bad round could be vital for one of those championship contenders, whether that be Christian Salmon falling out, would that be Jonathan Spiteri slightly slipping back, or the championship leader Ayrton Birmingham having to hand that over for the very first time in this championship since it got kicked off all the way back in early March, I believe, or maybe end of February. But I think there's still some really close battles out here, as you can see from the championship standings, and the racetrack should surely show it.
Yep, since the 3rd of March when our season started, it has been one where you've had to be adaptable. 5 cars, 5 tracks, 5 different race meetings. But here at Brands Hatch, we find ourselves with a known quantity, 3.9 kilometre circuit with 9 turns available to it. Up and down the hills you go. Low speed, effectively, of this circuit, meaning that overtakes are going to be a little bit more at a premium. But the Honda Civic Type R EK Touring car, this is the souped up version here in Gran Turismo 7, up to 247 brake horsepower, and as well it's got itself only 845 kilograms worth of weight, so it's producing about 300 brake horsepower per ton, known as the Miracle Civic. This Honda Civic, it was the car that promoted the Honda Civic up to the top through 3 different areas, Adam. The fact that it had excellent fuel economy, that it had itself the VTEC engine of its 1.6 litre, which was very high in torque, and then also its continually variable transmission.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot to this car, and I think that all our drivers really need to focus on is just being able to be adaptable. They've had their practice. Of course, they'll go into that qualifying session, which is going to be very quick. They're going to have to take a bit of time, maybe a lap or 2 to get it up to speed, get used to the circuit, really put it on the limit for the next maybe 2 laps after that, and then you've really got to go on your push laps and really try and get the best possible position that you can. So it will really be it would really be a test of trying and testaments around this brilliant circuit. And I really do think that a lot of our drivers will have a lot at hand, a lot at stake as well. So there'll be a lot to kind of contend with once we go into the next in towards this qualifying session. Indeed, the 2 races we have ahead, more importantly.
Yeah, and we will be finding that as our show is in collaboration with Gaming Malta, as well as Motors Inc., Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and JACAP. You get an understanding of a couple of our sponsors here as we step aside for just a couple of moments. When we come back, we will be in the full thralls of qualifying, and the battle for pole position for the main race will come up. Races 7 and 8, round 4, here from Brands Hatch.
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavour, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
And so out on circuit, these drivers will now find themselves just at the end of practice and looking to get themselves ready in for qualifying. This is a very important circuit in the world of racing, which, Adam, I'm sure you know a great deal about coming from the region yourself. This is a track that since the 1950s, when it was first designed as a motorcycle circuit, and then the story around this track of it building itself to say you should turn this into a racetrack for everybody, and it was, and then how it went forward to being this wonderful circuit that's hosted Formula One and IndyCar races and is part of the national scene in Great Britain, is one which is a delight to behold every time we see racing here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been so much history surrounding it. It's not just hosted the likes of Formula 1 and IndyCar, but also the DTM up until I believe it was 2019 or 18. Very similar. It's also hosted it was also part of the calendar, the first ever W Series. So much contention, and it's also the final round, as I said. British Touring Car Championship also hosted the last round of a British GT as well. So GT cars, everything has been around this circuit at least once. So it's very much a circuit steeped in history. And qualifying is now underway. So Honda Civics will now take to the racing circuit. The first corner they'll have to deal with is the very steep Paddock Hill bend. And if anyone goes to Brands Hatch after the racing, just stay a little while, go and take yourself down to turn 1, Paddock Hill bend, and have a look at that, how steep it is down the hill. Oh my goodness me, it is phenomenal.
Yeah, you definitely get one of the bigger drops out there in motorsport as you go, but this is a circuit that does also revel in the history of great British drivers, as a lot of great British circuits tend to do. Up over the top then of Hawthorne Hill, and then dropping back down it once again here towards Hawthorne's Bend. And now these series of 3 consecutive right-hand bends are going to be where you get the challenge here around this track. Westfield Bend is one where it's so easy to do exactly that. Run a little bit wide off of the exit there, grab the gravel off of the exit, and then through Dingledale up over Sheen's Curve. It is a very blind apex you go through, and then running over towards Stirling's. Just a little bit of understeer that's going to be dealt with. You pass there the 2 arrows there that go through in yellow, the ethereal arrows. You head over through towards Clearways and the Jim Clark Curve. The issue that you're going to find today is it's late on the slowdown, so you're not going to get much time to adapt as you go by. But Christian Sammer out there looking to set first times, immediately followed by Jonathan Spiteri out there second in the championship, and looking to prove that the pace is going to be all out as the lap times go. Up the hill towards Druids Bend here, turn number 2, where you can hug the middle of the curve and try and get the run off the exit. Front engine car, and looking for every single bit of grip that comes along with it. It is also front wheel drive, which means that you are going to have to be relying on the car just getting the rotation through the corner, understeer if you put too much throttle down.
Yeah, absolutely. To say that front wheel drive is going to be really important to adapt to. And I think that a lot of these drivers have been able to do that in the past with the cars that they have been using there in towards the right hander here at Hillwoods Bend, just trying to carry all the speed. It's going to be so important to grab that curve on the outside, Jensen and Button going that little bit too wide there off the right hander, but it is going to be just about using every inch of the circuit to try and bolster your lap and try and get it as short as possible. You're really looking for the shortest run around this circuit. It's just about every single piece of circuit that you're using. Alex also there, Ayrton Birmingham, just still using going half of the circuit, in fact, in that case, as he looks to round that last corner and put himself back onto Clark Curve and on toward the main straight here.
Well, 31.8 the time to be, and over the line it's there from him, using his own dad as a little bit of tow on the front stretch. 31.7, so clear by 0.07 of a second. Jonathan Spiteri pulling over to the right-hand side, trying to keep it out of range. And there is Jean-Paul Vella in what I would say is a very sedate Civic out there. The first ever Honda Civic to be given the Type R badge out there in terms of its history, and that third position is a full 0.8 of a second off of the pace. So there is certainly a lot of work that needs to be done to maintain the pace up there, but at such a hilly circuit, this is one of the few tracks where if you do step out of line through one of these corners, it does affect the next two. the next 3 that you have going about, because you do need to gather that pace as you go through. Still 700s down going through there, that second sector on best. So John Paul Vella really looking to improve here at Westfield Bend, trying to carry the momentum using all of the circuit, and now dropping down through Dingledale. It's the end of the lap where you just get that pressure, and it's just 2 90-degree corners that end the lap out.
It is, so they're really just trying to push everything they can out of this race car. And I think it'll really be down to there's some really key corners amongst the circuit where you can really gain time. I think, of course, Paddock Hill Bend is trying to use as much of the curve as you possibly can. And of course, Druids up at the top of the hill. That will be really important to get your braking right. And I think also the left-hander as you come in towards the forest section, because that's going to be a critical point to get yourself rotated around. And then just trying to get the whole back section right, that's going to be critical. That's a make or break, I'd say, part of the lap. And then closing out the line, just keep it right towards the pit wall. I think that's the best way to go about things around this Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. But the temperature of the circuit is still just climbing at this moment in time, still just laying the rubber down are all of our drivers. So they're really still looking at ways they can find time around this circuit. We're now seeing constant timing being Oscar Shvedev going up and doing 133 in his 133.6 in that one. I think he's still trying to find as much time as he possibly can as the driver continue to hustle around the circuit and see where they can find those times. It's still Ayrton Birmingham with a 131.7 out in front, with almost 6 minutes into this qualifying session. Still plenty more improvements to make, still plenty more time left on the clock. They have to start knuckling down if they want to get the times in.
Well, they don't have that long. They've got about just under 4 minutes now to put their times in. They're only allowed racing soft tyres here in qualifying. In the race for both races, the 25-minute main and the 20-minute sprint, they are locked onto racing medium tyres. So Jonathan Spiteri out there, who did pull it over as Addicts goes even quicker and now gives 0.3 of a second worth of margin with that lap. This is an out lap for Jonathan Spiteri, so this now has to be a gear it up and go lap if ever you did see one. And Addicts with half a second is going to really struggle to find that time. 2 bites in from Spiteri at Paddock Hill Bend. Very easy to get that understeer going through. You're reliant on gravity helping you out. And now out of Druids over to the Graham Hill Bend. We're going to be seeing improvements up and down the order. We've got Dens in 5th and Jonathan Spiteri battering the curbs out of Graham Hill.
And I think that as you say, they're really taking that curve highly aggressively. I think it's just because Gran Turismo does allow that. Usually in club racing that wouldn't be allowed. There would be track limits applied, but with Gran Turismo not really applying the same logic, they're just managing to go that little bit wider. And you can see that Jonathan Spiteri really trying to find every piece of the circuit as he continues to push his way through this forest section on towards Dingledale. And I think that he needs to just try and get a move on here. I wonder where his mindset is at. Of course, sitting 0.3 of a second behind his championship rival. 15 points between them. Got to make a move very soon, otherwise it could be another pole position here for Addicts. He enters the pit lane here.
Yep, so Addicts will not necessarily have much of an attempt. You've got to get over the line before 10 minutes expires to go and make that happen. But then over the line, it is going to be an improvement, but just short again. Half a tenth, stuck on a 31.598 and can't get enough to move up. Dens in the Coca-Cola car then moves on up the order, and we're seeing 135s in from the likes of Mamre, a little bit down the order. There's Jen Schmieg in 7th position, so Denzel Agius then ahead of Schmieg out there, who is there in P7. But right now, this becomes a case of final lap central. Who can put down that final lap that says, I've got a little bit more than everyone else? Addicts back out there in the cabin car, hoping that it's going to be a log cabin with a nice fire.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do think that a lot of these guys are pushing it. That sideways moment there for Jens Schmieg, and it was off into the gravel there on the left-hand side of the circuit, having to let through Ayrton Birmingham. He will be slightly distracted by that, so hoping he won't find himself down in this sector as he heads his way through Dingledale on toward the right-hander here. Really trying to use as much of the track as he possibly can. Pulls it back to the right. We're heading through Stirling on towards the bridge. Heading around that final corner, passing that big old MSV building. John Paul Vella also off into the gravel. So a lot of these drivers almost over pushing the cars now. They found the limit. They tried to go over because they know there's not a lot of time left in this qualifying session, and they need to get to the timing beam very, very quickly to either start their next lap round or go even quicker. Christian Salmon improved, but it's only up to third place still, 7/10 back. Where are those improvements coming, and how can you do it? That's going to be the question for a lot of our drivers.
Yeah, and it's a purple first sector for Addicts as the timer expires. So now everybody knows on the final lap, Spiteri wide, Schmieg wide, coming out there of the corners, and Addicts realising that he's got to really rotate the car. Osbert Zverev moves to a 33.5, good enough for 8th place then in qualifying, and this difficulty of having to change car each and every single time you race really does help the drivers who have that ability to go out there and really work with what they've got, able to adapt the best that they can. Westfield Bend then for Addicts and trying to rush down the hill and back up it again. All four of your top four still looking for lap time out there, and Addicts hoping it's there, and up a 10.5 going through with one sector to go. This could be the buffer zone that he's been hoping for. On for a 0.4, looking for a 0.3 if it is possible. Now through the final corner, has this unlocked everything that's needed? Addicts to give himself more gap, to give himself more room out there over the line. 0.4 it is ultimately. Here comes Spiteri going to the line, nowhere near, so that will do that. Christian Samet then hoping that this lap time's going to improve. No, it's not, and neither for Jean-Paul Vella. Your top four all locked out, and that is going to be that. Addicts then will hold that pole position unless Jens Schmieg, who I think's really dropped off the pace there, 154, finds an improvement, 21 seconds off the pace, no dice. I think you do see now who is showing that they've got pace. Addicts with your pole, Jonathan Spiteri, his main rival behind, top four in the championship, uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
It's going to be so magical. You've really spelled that out beautifully there, Jake. But yeah, our top two filling out in the championship, filling out our front grid. So it will be so interesting because it's really shown how both of them really had the pace the entire way through. Christian Sammers, John Paul Ballard, just missing that extra bit more to try and work their way around the circuit. I think that Addicts and both Spiteri both really know their Gran Turismo well. They know how to control a lot of these JDM cars. It's really shown with the pace they have had in not just this round here in qualifying, but all of the rounds. They've been so on it like a bonnet, and I really do think that this is the reason why they are the current championship leaders. And I really think that they are going to have an absolute titanic fight around here. The battle of the brands, I'm gonna call it. But we now move on to our 25-minute race. There are the results. 1/10 of a second separating the top two.
Yeah, so that 1/10 of a second, it's clear that you got two incredibly quick drivers. Christian Samet and John Paul Vella, I think, are going to have to really work hard in this race to stay with Addicts and Spiteri out there. Ayrton Birmingham on that pole. You got Dens back there in P5 with Ivan Birmingham close in 6th position. Then you've got Jens Schmieg 7th and Osbert Zverev down in P number 8. 2.1 seconds adrift back there in P8. And then you've got Mamre, Adrian Zoon, there you got Kari and also Ilwindi back there down at the back of the field, P number 12. So there are still going to be times that are needed. There are still going to be drivers who look to say, now is the time where we step up and go, this is where the race brings itself into play. But now you start looking around and saying, well, where do you find this race one result and how do you challenge those two drivers at the front? Is this going to be a case of the top two in the championship are looking to trade? Because they do know that there is a big swings difference between one driver winning and the other driver coming second. It's 23 points for a win. It's 18 points a second. So in theory, it's a 10-point swing each and every time they try and make the move.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're really going to have to just, they're going to have to really play this one strategically. I think there's going to be a lot of, as you say, strategic play. I do think that a lot of these guys are really going to have to work their way around this circuit. They're going to have to really set up the moves. And if you really want those extra points, really going to have to make sure you're working overtime and get that driver in front of you to work overtime. So I really think that these guys are in it for the win. What about that mid-pack battle? I think that could go absolutely crazy as they're all fighting for the same piece of tarmac, not really with the same pace of the front leaders. But I think this race is very much up in the air so far. But it's going to be down the racetrack where the talking will stop and the tires will roll.
They're getting the countdown now, which will put them into the gridding process. It's a rolling start, as it always is out here with Gran Turismo 7 starts in lobbies, and we will be in for a treat out there with this one. They've got 25 minutes, and they are on the medium tyres, the racing medium, so there will be no requirement for any of these drivers to come in and make a pit stop. But this is more of the traditional higher wearing circuit than it is a lower wearing circuit, because you've got all the medium speed corners. Watch out for the left hand side tyres to wear a lot more aggressively than the right. Addicts with control, Ayrton Birmingham, Jonathan Spiteri behind. We are underway then here at round 4 of the Asphalt Kings JDM Legends, and a comfortable start going through. Christian Samet running very wide out of Paddock Hill Bend, but the launch is there and perfected just in the back. John Paul Vella thought about the inside, didn't quite get there, but a clean start, which we like to see.
Absolutely, we do. Normally happens on a clean start, especially with single file rolling. Now the battle really turns, the attention turns to our front two as Ayrton Birmingham leads in towards the left-hander and really tries to get the throttle down, but a little bit of a wiggle. But Spiteri will be looking at that. I think there'll be some classic door-banging touring car racing, and I think a lot of the liveries here very much very similar to the Super Touring era back in the 90s of the British Touring Car Championship era. Terry will have a look at that car and just starting to be eyeing it up. Where will he play his cars? What kind of deck does he have in his arsenal? And whereabouts will he play those cars and potentially try and see if he can sneak on through and get those extra points and close in on the championship lead? But it has been the Ayrton Birmingham show with the multitude of wins that he's had all season. We need to see a wide run in Sammers in this opening couple of stages.
Well, this is where Jonathan Spiteri is going to have to really show Ayrton Birmingham what he's all about. This sort of race today, where he sits and looks, is going to be now about keeping each other honest. And if that gap extends anywhere out over a second, then there's troubles. Immediately a 10th lost in the opening corner, gathered back up on the exit though by Addicts with the way that he turns into the corner and looks to prioritise exit out there. No real changes through the top 8 as they went through the opening. That bit of side-by-side back there is that's Jens Schmeig and Ivan Birmingham looking at it for position, and it looks like Ivan has got his move done. So it looks like Jensen and Button, Jens Schmeig is going to lose out the position, and it brings Osbert Zverev into the battle. 6th, 7th and 8th still up for grabs as they run out of Surtees corner and now up through Pilgrim's Drop.
Yeah, they're really starting to get into bumper to bumper here. Classic touring car racing. They blast their way down the Pilgrim's Drop and in towards the right hand of Hawthorns. just trying to use every single piece here. Wide there from Jens Schmieg again. He did that during qualifying, replicates that here in the first race. He's trying to survive, but again, that really just opens up into another mistake, and that will give him half a second penalty. Interestingly, it's going to be situated on the exit of Sterling's, the run down towards just here, and then on the exit down on toward that final corner where you need quite a lot of momentum. I don't know if that's the best place to be putting it. I think the main straight might be an interesting, better place for it. But if the game has put it there, it's there for a reason, and we'll run with it for sure. Sam now just goes over the line as he looks to be losing a little bit of time. We know he didn't quite have the same pace as those front runners, but he's seeing if he can potentially maybe just stick here to get a third place and see if he can maybe just push on and get a higher up position for race 2, because of course there will be race 2 in his mind once this first race starts to die down a little bit and go into a bit of a lull. He'll just maintain third place, get a better result in race 2 ahead of those front runners ahead of him.
Yeah, so this is where Christian Sammet now is looking around and saying, well, I'm struggling here in the Kieran car, as very much this is the top 2 running away from him. But if he can stay in that third place, it is exactly as you say, Adam, where those drivers look around and say, well, if I can't score maximum points here in race 1, race 2 has that full reverse, and I've got a little bit of a leg up, so I can run through the traffic a little bit quicker, a little bit easier out there, as these drivers have spread themselves out actually quite nicely through the opening 4 minutes of this race. Sammet trying to give that chase, but already down by 2.2 seconds at the moment, and staving that gap of 1.5 seconds to Jonathan Spiteri. So it's maintaining that margin quite nicely, and out of the Jim Clark curve now and onto this front stretch, banked front stretch then as they go through, which does make life a little bit difficult when you've got those starts going through. Alex, another purple lap onto the board to make that gap 1.1, but you do worry every time you go through Paddock Hill Bend, because that gravel, it is very easy just to get that massive difference between one wheel and the other, and Den's illustrating that perfectly.
Yeah, it's such a difficult corner to get right, because of course you're so loaded on that left-hand side. The car just trying to push more towards that gravel trap with the front wheels, front wheel drive you have with these Honda Civic Touring cars. You're just getting kind of pushed towards that gravel trap, and you've just got to try and maintain that throttle. And you want, as a driver, you want to get that throttle down as much as you possibly can. Some just try a bit more of a later apex, a tighter line, just something to just try and straighten it out and get the fastest way around, and to still continue to push out here, albeit 2.5 seconds back from John Paul Vella. But he's probably looking at that 5th place in the Drivers' Championship, as we mentioned beforehand in the early stages of this broadcast. I think that's where he's going to try and solidify himself at this moment in time, and I think he will have the pace to potentially push through in that second race. You just need to use this kind of as another kind of test session, as you like, for that second race, then to see if you can maximise everything you can. And with the 20-minute race that they're going to have, that's an even bigger opportunity. But a penalty there for Oscar Schweder. Where did he get that? Because that must have been on the exit for Sterling.
Yeah, he's got that after the penalty line, so he's going to have to hold this for an entire lap to put this penalty in on board. Not often that you get to see it that late come through, but of course there is an initiation sequence when it comes to picking up the penalty, so even if he does pick it off the exit of Sterling, it will not count to apply that penalty until you get to Dingle Dell and up over the Sheens curve, and it's around that area of the track where the penalty process starts, because you've got to have fair due warning in order to administer that penalty here in Gran Turismo 7. Sammet continuing to keep himself in third, but John Paul Vella's been quiet about this, knowing that third in the championship is very much within his reach, down by only 7 points, and knowing that a move like this one here is a 6-point swing out there. So instead of being 10 points back of the podium places, he would only be 4 points back if he makes this move, heading towards race 8 of the championship.
We are very much so into a critical stage of this championship. We're right in the mincemeat of round 4, but of course course, this will be the 7th race of the championship, and then we'll go into the 20-minute 8th race of the standing. Now we've got a bit of a tussle here. Jean-Paul Vella starting to look at attacking Christian Samet for that podium spot. So Samet it's not quite solidified with that 3rd place. Tyson maybe throw a defensive maneuver in towards Paddock Hill, but I think just he needs to keep his eyes forward on the road here. But he's going very, very wide through that first corner of Paddock Hill bend. Jean-Paul Vella will have a look here in towards Druid's corner up at the top of the hill before they plunge back down towards Graham Hill. And I think Jean-Paul Vella is seeing a gap here. He's going to try the outside line. It's not going to happen through there. Potentially in toward the left-hander of Surtees if he can pull a surprise.
Yeah, so Surtees here could be the place where the move happens at 8.5 minutes in, but now it's about drive because you want the easiest place to make the move. Out then of Surtees, up over Pilgrim's Drop, and then down Hawthorne Hill. That might be where you start looking at it. Samet's immediately over on the right-hand side, but he's got still about a half a car length of a gap then before turning, so not really under any pressure out there on circuit in that 5th gear at 110 miles an hour. And now through Westfield Bend, look at the drive Jean-Paul Vella's getting up over the top. Oh, he tries to pinch a way through, little bit of front to rear contact. He muscles his way by. Samet trying to get himself back on the outside, trying to find his pass, but Jean-Paul Vella confirms it at Stirling's and takes the podium place.
A really, really solid move there by Jean-Paul Vella. Proper touring car racing, just tried to nibble a bit of the rear left corner and managed to find a way through, muscled his way through. Still, Sam, I think, will continue to chase that, but does he have the pace? Does he have the drive? Does he have what it takes to try and take it back? He wants to have a go there in towards Paddock Hill Bend, but Jean-Paul Vella immediately saying no in that case. Back up to Druid once again, and Sam really continues to apply the pressure as he looks for a potential overtaking move. I think if he can maybe get a run through the second half of this lap, he may find himself within striking distance by the time he reaches Paddock Hill Bend onto that main straight. But Jean-Paul Vella starting to open up a gap here, so really starting to feel the rhythm as he moves his way in towards this mid stage of the race.
Yeah, so starting to make that progress, but getting up to 3rd is one thing. It's 4 seconds to get to Jonathan Spiteri, who's just been unable, really, to close down on Ayrton Birmingham. It's clear he's got the pace, and that 3.3 second gap, I think, is very much testament to just how quick he's able to get the car working here around this circuit. And Spiteri runs a little bit wide coming out there of the Sheen curve, that up over the hill, blind off Camber corner. And so you're seeing that time just slowly chipping away. And there's not really much you can do in this situation where you see that time just go and go and go and go and go. There is really nothing much that you can do. And you are seeing here these gaps. There are places where you got great battling, for example, with Osbert Zverev and co, I think, all the way back then in about 6th, 7th and 8th, because Ivan Birmingham here has just been unable to shake these two off.
Yeah, it's that's a bit of an overtake there for Osbert Zverev. That was very half-hearted, trying in on the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. You need to be right alongside if you're going to try and overtake into the first corner, because then you really just need to need your opposition to know that you're there, and to make it almost a fair move. You can't just be barging away down a hill. Oh, that's goes Jens Schmeek. I think that may be a potential bit of loss of control there, but he gets a half a second penalty for that, so unfortunately will bleed away from this battle once he gets into that final corner, as Osbert Zverev continues to push on here and look to re-overtake Ivan Birmingham. They've had a proper tussle in race 1, and I wonder how much that will continue as they head on towards race 2. As you can see, I can really see that these guys will not be able to leave each other's sight, I think, over the course of these two races. Wide there for both Birmingham and Osbert Zverev, so they're still pushing the limits as much as they possibly can, but the penalty in that case going to Ivan in this, to Osbert Zverev in this case.
So Osbert Zverev with half a second, and again from where it's picked up, not enough time to serve it, so I'll have to do it again next lap. And the way it's served is you just jam on the brake essentially for half a second. So you don't just lose half a second, you lose all that time gaining that speed. It's not as much as it has been at other circuits, but where you have it, you're losing about a second as you head in towards the Jim Clark curve.
I wonder if Oscar Schwedeb is maybe going to try and make an overtake here on Ivan Birmingham. Yes, he looks so far back already, but it'll be quite crucial if he can make it before he gets before he punches on the brakes. You see, they're using every piece on the racing circuit there. And I wonder if another penalty will be added to his name. Mistake there from Ivan Birmingham. So that will enlighten the eyes of Oscar Schwedeb, but still not enough to force him to let that seventh place car through in this case. So still they go down towards Pilgrim's Drops 2x2 here. I think that slowdown will really affect Oscar Schwedeb in this case.
Yeah, and so Schwareb's half a second is going to now hurt because he's done well to stay here with Ivan Birmingham, and ultimately this is where he finds himself in a very commanding position right now. You can see the penalty comes just down there from Dingle Dell, and so if you pick one up over the top of the hill, you've got to wait a whole lap for it. But Ivan running wide, and Osbert Schwareb will get the run, but now he's going to lose that entire run there with the half a second hit on the brake. So it actually spares Ivan Birmingham's blushes there from Osbert Schwareb. So that is tough in that situation to have had the runs, had the opportunity, but the penalty says no.
Yeah, it would have been so frustrating because he would have seen that wide moment there from the 46. And then, unfortunately, it would have... Oh, it's gone wide this time. Ivan Birmingham, so he saw that opportunity bleed away from him earlier. Ivan makes that same mistake, and there you go. Opens up the opportunity to not just Osbert Schwedeb, but Jens Schmieg as well. So the 55 will pull on through. And I think the tyres is just starting to go a little bit for Ivan Birmingham. The rear is very much sliding a lot here for Ivan. That's really because he's kind of killed the tyres off and not really looked after them compared to the others. Maybe a bit more of an aggressive driving style has been the downfall of Ivan as well. So not ideal there for the Birmingham, for the elder Birmingham.
Yeah, so losing that out then is a couple places that would be wanted back, and Jonathan Spiteri running wide, 4 seconds now the gap. John Paul Vella unable to chase this gap down. It's now ballooned to 6.5 seconds, and you look at Christian Samet back there in fourth, hasn't really lost too much ground, 1.2. That's good at the moment. If you can find over the next 10 minutes here, the final 10 minutes of this race, that pace to go back until you're looking at about 0.3 of a second a lap, that move can be made, and Christian Samet just needs to find that next level, especially when the tyres start going, and it will be the fronts that eat up first because that's where all the power is derived from.
Yeah, it is. So with the front wheel drive, they're going to be more at use. There's not really too much to the rear tyres. I think the main issue in terms of rear tyres throughout a race weekend you're hoping is it's just trying to get those warmed up, especially on the likes of a qualifying lap. That's your main worry. We've done qualifying. That's done and dusted. That's been left in the past. So the fronts are really kind of the main problem for these guys. Sam there just trying to do whatever he can. He's at this moment in time going to get himself data here, just following in the tracks of John Paul Vella, seeing where he's quicker. He could potentially use that in the second race. So yeah, he's going to be starting now in 9th place, ahead of John Paul Vella, ahead of Jonathan Spiteri, ahead of Ayrton Birmingham. And Sam is in a pretty good place. I don't think he should start throwing his toys at the pram just yet. Still plenty of opportunity to make it up in the second race. I think just backing points would be so important, but when you're not quite having the same consistency with Spiteri and the likes of, as I say, Spiteri and Ayrton Birmingham, I think that you've just got to keep yourself pushing for this round, and of course the last round at Ayrton Birmingham. I think it's going setting another fastest lap there, very close to. In fact, he did.
He did, and that just tells you how quick he's running, knowing that the tyres aren't going away from him the way he wants, and he's only finding himself in that rhythm. And after what happened at Tokyo Expressway, to put yourself in the best possible position to be at 15 points ahead, now looking at 20 points ahead with car number 20 that he's running with at the moment. That's what he's looking at, a full race. So now that he's looking at a full race margins lead for the sprint, he knows that he will not be able to lose the championship lead should it finish like this at the end of this race. He would love that commanding position to go to the final round of the championship at the Nürburgring and say he is top dog. But speaking of which, Christian Samet back in range again, and Jean-Paul Vella knows it.
Yeah, he does. So now Christian Samet, as I said, with that self-data he's got from following Jean-Paul Vella these last couple of laps, now he knows exactly what he needs to do. He needs to try and potentially force a way on through, but as I said, he's just trying to carry himself through these next 2 rounds and round out the championship in style, almost getting so close to the rear bumper of Jean-Paul Vella. I'd love to have an onboard view of what Samet can see, or maybe even a hood cam to see how that's there you go. Oh, this is what our driver can see coming out of that last corner, using every single piece that he possibly can, following in the wheel tracks and getting a little bit of slipstream. These little boxes do produce a little bit of slipstream, but it, of course, it's not as great as the usual single seated in towards Paddock Hill, going a little bit more aggressively. You see there Jean-Paul Vella kind of just trying to go a little bit more wider, get the turn in there, but now we're starting to see Christian Samet picking up the pace and really starting to get all over the rear end of Jean-Paul Vella, get him in his that car, that bright yellow lemon car, to the mirrors of Jean-Paul Vella, try and maybe force him left or right, maybe force him an opposite way to try and force this move out. But with just over 5.5 minutes left remaining, is going to be do or die on this part.
Well, catching and trying to make that move is one thing, actually succeeding is most certainly another, and now up in the 6th gear, using all of that 1.6 litre naturally aspirated engine. It's a DOHC engine which has VTEC applied to it as it goes by Westfield Bend then, and this is a perfect chance to study where Jean-Paul Vella builds his margin, and it is through this section. It's the confidence in the high speed to braking zones where he is able to build that margin. Christian Samet can gather it back through the medium speed corners, especially there at Stirling. There was a great place for Christian Samet to bring that gap on in, but he's not close enough. He's at 3.5 tenths of a second, and I do think here with Christian Samet, if he wants to go, he will go, but he is going to run out of time soon if he's not careful, because he is down now to just 4 minutes and a half to try and find this path. It doesn't look like too much, but it is going to be 3 laps to go for them, and defensive up into Druid, and a mistake into Druid. Thank you very much. There's the move.
That's a brilliant manoeuvre there. Whole kind of setup move, but hang on, a little bit wide moment there. Jean-Paul Vella will pull alongside, so let's not get too hasty, and it looks like the lemon car will have to drop back once again. Jean-Paul Vella pulling ahead, but trying to get the switch back, and they're going to lean on each other now. We saw a lot of leaning on each other at Tokyo Expressway, but down here at Brands Hatch we're doing the same thing again. It is like the pre-TCC all over again, and the yellow lemon car will pull ahead. Jean-Paul Vella potentially going to try and push at Samet ahead now, but it's just not working at this moment in time. And what an absolute titanic battle we've had here, but Samet will just nick ahead in this one. Jean-Paul Vella will still have a little bit of time, but it will be about 3.5 minutes as of now.
Well, they are going to start running out of time here if they're not careful, because they might be a lap short compared to the likes of Addix as Jean-Paul Vella searches to the outside at Clearways Corner, hoping that the move's there, and it won't be because it's a very closed apex entry. But now, can you get the drive down low? Christian Samet just about covers it, and that's going to force the high side from Jean-Paul Vella over to Paddock Hill Bend, who gets early out of the throttle and tries to really drive for the exit then off of the hill. this an important switch up in the championship. A thought again to the inside by John Paul. Can't get it, but now off the exit. A really good drive and still can't find it at Graham Hill. Big slide though by Samet. Might open up the door. John Paul Vella can only look, and because he was so close behind, couldn't get the drive.
They're both wiggling at the rear end there, going in towards Sergi. The back over the crest they go. Samet just holding on for dear life. They've bled all that time away from Spiteri, but they will not give a hoot about Spiteri in Birmingham. They will focus on getting the last podium in the podium spot in this race, and looks like John Paul Vella just keeping himself in touch with Samet, all about trying to find that run in towards the right-hander here, trying to use all of the circuit. You've got to go right up to the grass to open up the corner, the right-hander, as you head in towards Dingledale, and just go over each of these curves through that right and then that left-hander. It's all about the curb use in these touring cars, I'd say, because of course that is really just how you open up all of these corners. Use as much as you possibly can and try and just shorten the lap as much as you possibly can. John Paul Vella onto the grass and too much grass. Oh yeah, bye. Unfortunately there, I think just a touch of grass and the rear just fell away there. Here comes Oscar Zverev. He might potentially look to try and claim that 4th place, and in fact he will do so.
What a bizarre moment. Front stretch. Tyres go completely the other way. It's almost like there was a disconnect there or something of that ilk, the way that incident happens. But John Paul Vella will be red-faced because he knows that he's cost himself a podium, and now the gap will go out by a further 2 points as he finds himself in 5th, unless he finds a way back to Osbert Zverev, who is out there on track in front of him, knowing that this will be their final lap of the race. He's only got now to go and attack, because Ayrton Birmingham here, I think, is going to have a lap of honour potentially as he heads himself through the left of Stirling's Bend, and is going to have 30 seconds from now to cross the line to start a final lap. I think Jonathan Spiteri is going to be able to follow on in kind and be the last 2 drivers over the line who can make a difference out there. Christian Samet is going to be short by comparison, it looks like. So final lap starts for Addicts as he goes. Jonathan Spiteri is there just behind and will get through, but Christian Samet will be first to the line and is going to find the checkered flag. One of the unique sections out there, as 25 minutes does get hit out there on the board, and that will be his finish, all documented and sorted. Osbert Zverev will come 4th. John Paul Vella will look behind and get only P5, but you look down the order and say, well, now you can really start making some progress. John Paul Vella's really going to need to charge in that race. Carla Granez, who we've not really seen anything of. What a quiet run by him there in P9. He'll certainly be looking to try and take advantage of race number 2 here tonight. Here brought to you with the Asphalt Kings JDM Legends as a Velocity Esports Racing production. 9th for him, I would say, is a little bit middle of the road. Windy, though, having to fight hard here. Mamre trying to get the run through the final corner, and you know what? Might just manage it here. Ducking down low. Is their drive? Is their drive? This is going to be close as they go to the line. Windy just about holds on. Adrian Zoom will get there, but now to your winner, and simply put, we will say it as winner. 6 seconds to the clear. Left them all in the dust. Ayrton Birmingham, a flash of the lights as he goes. A big victory that puts him once again 20 clear at the top. Jonathan Spiteri with him behind in 2nd.
It's a beautiful finish there, and a perfect race there by Ayrton Birmingham. Extends that championship lead, and a well-deserved win. Another win to add to his illustrious collection. The 5th win of the season for Ayrton Birmingham. Jonathan Spiteri will follow in behind. 6.5 seconds it was over the course of those 25 minutes to stay relatively in touch, but it was just not enough to topple Ayrton Birmingham. It was a beautiful beautiful run. Then we got Christian Samet there, taking that podium, which was well deserved, ahead of Oscar Juero. Jean-Paul Vella, I think that's going to be a case of what could have been, but he will look to push from P8, I believe. Then comes Ivan Birmingham with Jens Schmid, the beautiful orange Honda Civic Type R touring car with Denzer in P8. We've had a wonderful, wonderful race here at Brands Hatch, but we've got one more shortened by 5 minutes, and those 20 minutes will be a very, very enjoyable one for sure.
And we'll reverse the grid as well for that one here at Brands Hatch to give those drivers at the front a chance to escape away. We are going to step aside for just one moment when it comes to the Asphalt Kings JDM Legends. On the other side of this, we'll be back with the 8th race of 10 as we get ourselves sorted for everything fantastic going on, and knowing that that reverse grid will have a lot of drivers licking their chops.
This is the iconic oven-baked cheesy crick snack you've always loved. And this, it's Cricks too. Can you spot the difference? No? That's because there isn't one. Cricks still has the same irresistible crunchy goodness, wrapped in a stylish new packet. Same delicious flavour, brand new look. So snack lovers, get ready to spot Cricks in the snack aisle. Cricks, same iconic taste, new stylish pack. Now in sharing pack size.
One more to go here tonight. We get ready then for race number 8 of 10 in this championship. 20 points now to the good. Only 20 points now on offer here in a reversed grid race known as a sprint. So there is a lot to play for, but Ayrton Birmingham's got to go from the back. And the one thing to note here about Brands Hatch compared to some of the other circuits out there, Adam, is that this is a circuit that has a little bit of a wider gap as you come over to the start.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really do think a lot of that is going to be so interesting, especially off the start. But here is the calendar. Of course, we've done Grand Valley, South variant, and that was a very Ayrton Birmingham dominated race. Then we went to the Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, which saw a lot of chaos happen amongst them, amongst that circuit over in America. Then we went over to Japan for the Tokyo Expressway East clockwise for round 3 of the championship, which saw a double Birmingham win, both Ayrton and Ivan winning, father and son Joe. Now we head to Brands Hatch. Ayrton Birmingham winning once again on the GP loop with the Honda Civic Type R touring car, and of course we'll head to round 5 of the Nürburgring Sprint layout, the shortened version, which is situated in the hills of Nürburg. We will have the Nissan R34 GTR Spec 2 in use next week in 7 days' time. So be prepared for that one here on Velocity Esports. racing, and I'm sure that that will be a very, very entertaining end to the season. But staying on focus with Brands Hatch, I do think there's going to be a lot to talk about, especially with 20 minutes that we're about to witness. So much to take into consideration, especially with that reverse grid. Jake, where do you see this kind of going? In what direction do you see this going?
Well, it's going to be about who gains the gaps early and who can manage it. You can't turn around and say that pace doesn't matter here today, because it certainly did for Ayrton Birmingham. So if Jonathan Spiteri wants to get this race going back into his favour, he's got one thing that he's got to do, and that is to build that margin and just get as many places and as many cards in between him and Ayrton Birmingham as he can. The other two rivals, Christian Samet and John Paul Vella, might be looking at this. John Paul Vella might have a very good starting position to go and climb through, but I don't think it's going to be as aggressive as we've seen at previous races. I think actually there's a lot of space to go and make those passes, and so I'm expecting a little bit more cleaner of a run. So I throw the question back to you, Adam. What do you expect out of this race?
I expect quite for the majority of it, it's going to be midfield running leader. I do think there are going to be some really, really interesting moments, a lot of overtakes, and I think we are potentially going to see 3 wide because, of course, we know how fast Spiteri is, we know how fast Ayers and Birmingham are, and they're just going to absolutely run their way romp their way to the front of the grid. I think that's a better word to say, romp their way, because they're probably just going to dart through. Meanwhile, that lead is going to be ever changing, so it's going to be a real difference from that first race that we saw. I do think that it's going to be either Spiteri or maybe even Ayrton Birmingham. It depends if Birmingham, how quickly can he get through, and can he do it without making a mistake? Because if he can do it without a mistake, well, I think it could be a second win for Ayrton Birmingham. But if it does take a while for him to move through the grid, well, it could be somebody else's for the taking.
It very much could be, and those drivers, I look around at Jens Schmieg as well, who could have a very good platform to work off of with here in this race number 2 tonight. The pace control, though, is not with him, it's not with Dens, it's all the way over there with Adrian Zoom. We get ourselves underway here at Brands Hatch again, and Adrian Zoom from Mamre, from Ilwindy, then as they drop down the hill and back up towards Druids as they fight. We saw those two have a very close scrap to the line, Mamre and Ilwindy running through Druids, looking to get the drive off the exit, and Nguanez immediately now starting to pressure down to Graham Hill, searching, gets into the back, and that causes Dens to slow up, and here comes Jens Schmieg straight down to the inside. Schmieg looking for that move, and I think is going to manage it. What a nice pass down the inside. Dens all the way back to 7th. Ivan Birmingham running wide out the corner.
Yeah, kicking some dust up there. I believe that was going to be the white livery car there of Dens. He is just trying to make his way through Christian Samet, looking on Osbert Zverev. It's a very old school circuit here, so it'd be quite tough to make the overtake, but Christian Samet leaving no time on the board before getting through here on Osbert Zverev. So already up to P9 within the first minute and a half of this race. Ayrton Birmingham there charting JS19, Jonathan Spiteri. So Spiteri will have a lot on his plate now if he wants to potentially go and get a great result from this race. Ivan Birmingham making a little bit of a slide, a little bit of a correction through the left-hander there as Sterling powering his way down and towards the right-hander. That Jens Schmieg going to try and go up the inside of the final corner, and through Clark they go. He absolutely is, and that is a proper send there on JP. John Paul Vella, I wonder if he will still be very frustrated from his earlier race 1 antics, but wow, my word there. Oh, that's going to be Spiteri. That was a little bit too much there. He tried to follow Ayrton Birmingham through, and he's still doing it here. He's still going to try and throw that car up the inside, which he does. And I think it's just all about staying in contact here with Ayrton Birmingham. Whatever Birmingham does, just try and go with him as well, because he's got a car to bully out the way as well, so just try and find that gap and go with him.
Well, it's tough competitors in front, John Paul Vella and Christian Samet, to get by as they go on to their second lap. They're not going to have many attempts to go around this circuit. They are just going to have to manage and maintain as they go. There is Ilwindi losing out then down the inside. In fact, gaining the place on Carlin Granez, who's slow off the exit. Dens will pick one up now, and Ivan Birmingham will start to look around. Adrian Zoom with control of this field at the front, and Ivan looking for around, so too Jens Schmieg, and now you got Addicts there in the back there. Ayrton Birmingham was looking for a way past John Paul Vella, but John Paul having none of it then as he half defends the space going into Sterling's corner. They are bottling up behind Ivan Birmingham here, and Addicts is going to have to try and pick a lane here. So Ayrton, where do you go? The answer's to the outside. John Paul throws it in through the corner, but the grip is there on the outside if you want to use it. And now they'll go either side and fan, because Jonathan Spiteri wants the inside as he charges to Paddock Hill Bend, and I think he's going to go get it as well as he runs on through. Absolutely wonderful. Oh, he'll take Ayrton as well for the lunge. What a lovely pass too for Jonathan Spiteri as he runs up now towards Druids, and Ilwindi drops back.
Try and put a car in between him and his main championship rival. That would really off-put Ayrton Birmingham now, and I think he's done absolutely that. He put Ilwindi in between him and Ayrton Birmingham, but that would have been broken down like a...
He's managed to get that one too, so I think that's just wonderfully done in terms of that move. Christian Samet knows how important that pass is, so I think that's just incredibly done. But Samet's having it back then, heading to Westfield Bend, looking down the inside. Spiteri, oh, he tried to turn in on him and couldn't quite manage it, so that brings back then in Ayrton Birmingham 1, 2 and 3 in the championship altogether. Samet gives a bit of door up over the top, Spiteri off into the grass, and Alex I think is going to try and take that one, and almost does and will do round the outside of Sterling. It's amazing how it flips in half a lap.
Yeah, that's over-aggressiveness, I think, there from Jonathan Spiteri. Look, he's now put himself in a position where he's side by side with Ilwindi, one of the more drivers that should be more towards the back, and he isn't doing towards the back here. But now he's got to play contention here. John Paul Vella, look at the gap that's opened up between him and Ayrton Birmingham. Not ideal what he wants. I think that's a car potentially almost off into the gravel. It looks like 10th, 11th has got through. Where is that 12th car there? I think that's going to be Osbert Schweder. So Osbert Schweder has a bit of damage there at the front. You see that the scratches and the paint coming off. So he's been involved in something. I'm not sure if there was a barrier involved in that one, but yeah, he's dropped a while back now, and Ilwindi off onto the gravel trails. I think he's going a little bit of lawn mowing right there.
Yeah, he's got to be careful about it, and the quarter distance, Adrian Zoom has been unchallenged here at the front. Mamry in second, and Dens is there in P number 3 as it stands. We watch here with Christian Samet in 7th place, but Carlin Guanez looking to challenge Jens Schmieg for position. Dens with the fastest lap currently out there. It has been so aggressive on the battling, and Dens really bundling over the curb and picked half a second up because he's cut the corner. So his run on Mamry there in the Coca-Cola Type R out there is now going to have to bend a little bit, as Ivan Birmingham is now going to get a good chance, and so too Jens Schmieg. Over to the left-hand side. There goes Dens, and ultimately look at how much time is going to be lost. 2 places gone, and Schmieg looking for a way down the inside. Wide goes Ivan Birmingham, and now gets the run. So brilliantly done. There's the passes in, and look at those 3 behind, trying to keep themselves in play. And Guanez now having to defend as Ayrton Birmingham can't quite get a lane. Off goes Schmieg, off the road, almost gets clipped by Spiteri.
That's going to be Soto. Lucky there, Spiteri just surviving. Meanwhile, it looks like Ayrton Birmingham trying to go side his way up the inside of a couple of cars. It looks like Sam has gone back on through. I think also potentially another car on that inside line, that car like Guanez. And Guanez is trying to slip on through as well. But Ayrton Birmingham survives another day, diving up the inside there. And Christian Sam, important there, to put that car in between him and Spiteri. But Spiteri's having none of it. Trying to put there Spiteri in a place where it's under a lot of pressure, and Carly Guanez will just build on that pressure of Sam. It's an absolute pressure cooker in the mid-pack. And Guanyen gets pushed offline. John Paul Vella will find a way on through. Absolute mayhem happening in the mid-pack. Changes all are happening all around the circuit. And this is absolutely incredible. Meanwhile, yeah, that's a really good point there. That's going to be so important, and Spiteri be looking at with his eyes gleaming away. He knows that his championship rival will have to now give up the place. Oh, he's just parked himself right in front, and through goes Spiteri. Meanwhile, in all of this, Adrian Zoom has kept the lead here after 8 minutes. He has got a 2-second advantage over Mamre. This is a superb effort by Adrian Zoom. Whilst all this battle is going on, he is holding a 2-second lead out in front. A driver that didn't see the top 10, or sorry, for sure, the top 9 last race. He's now finding himself in the race lead constantly. Ivan Birmingham diving his way up the inside now.
And that puts him P2. Adrian Zoom, who started on the pole here in this race. No driver has been able to win the pole. And look at that. Is that Dens who's going slow there back there? It is, down in 8th place. So he's dropped all those positions coming out of Graham Hill behind John Paul Vella and needing to push. Adrian Zoom, the first driver looking like to get to the halfway stage of this race with the race lead, because Mamre is still being the cork in the bottle as Jonathan Spiteri now looks for the inside. Contact between them, sliding through the corners. Alex gives a second tap as they go through. Spiteri covers off to Westfield Bend, desperate to hold this group up. Here goes Ayrton Birmingham down the inside. He's going to pick up that place, and Spiteri now immediately follows on in suit. Mamre, welcome to the freight train, my friend. And now John Paul Vella might decide that he wants P6 as he goes by. No chance at Sterling's.
Oh, this feels like a proper national championship, battle in the final race. But then you remember we've got a whole another round in 7 days' time. Ivan Birmingham now closing that gap. Gravel being kicked up in the background here, but more importantly, Ivan Birmingham has put that gap down to now less than 1 second. He's more confident in that race car compared to Adrian Zoom, maybe a little bit overconfident because he's throwing it in towards a position where Adrian Zoom can just eke that advantage out now. And Spiteri going off track there. Oh, you don't want to be doing that too many times, but he's going to be feeling the pressure drastically with his championship rival in front of him. There's contact between the two. Oh, just keeping themselves a line astern here, but that is going very, very, very much for both of them.
Well, Jonathan Spiteri's in a very awkward position right now. He needs to defend from Ayrton. He knows he's got Ivan Birmingham in front, so the two Birmingham 2nd and 4th, and now down the hill at Hawthorns and around the outside. The move's going to have to be made here by Alex Spiteri. Leans on him, gives him only just the room. Oh, what a pass! Just strike that in together. What a pass by Alex around the outside of Hawthorn Bend. You don't see that too often here at Brands Hatch, but a wonderful move and just 2 places needed. Spiteri not willing to let go. He's going to hug his bumper as he goes through, and Adrian Zoom now with 9 minutes to go has been caught by the pack, and it's 5 drivers who has caught him. Ivan Birmingham, Ayrton Birmingham, Jonathan Spiteri, Christian Samet and John Paul Vella. Mamre has pulled the car off the side of the road. He's done with his race, but now you start to look and you think that Ayrton Birmingham has 2. Adrian Zoom goes spread eagle sideways, and look at this for the race lead, because Ayrton Birmingham looks at it and says, gimme, it's mine. Race lead, Jonathan Spiteri down the inside of Druids goes 2nd.
Absolutely, he's done exactly what he needed to do. He made his way through, did to Birmingham, and noticeably, Spiteri has done the exact same thing as he's been doing. Just follow on through what Ayrton Birmingham do. Just recreate it, and you'll hopefully find a way through as well. More sliding cars. You've had Birmingham off the road, coming straight back on in front of a lot of the other drivers. So hopefully they will just survive, and they do in fact. But unfortunately, penalty there for Ivan Birmingham. He will now drop all the way down to 8th. Hotly contested battle here for P4. John Paul Vella leading through Sama, leading Dens. Can Dens potentially get involved in that beautiful Coca-Cola inspired livery down there in 6th? But Adrian Zoom is going to be a driver feeling a lot of pressure now, especially with John Paul Vella in behind.
Up the hill then, over towards the Sheen curve out to Dingle-Dell. Then Sterling's corner comes into play. Crossover, looking for the angle, and just about has to hold back. And Christian Sammet's going to get a great run here, coming out of Sterling. So he's going to try and bring himself into play. Look at them trying to weave across the circuit, working out where the space is. Aggressive line then from Adrian Zoom. This is costing these drivers a shot of victory here, because they're already out to 4 seconds that they've lost on the race leader. Now to the outside, Jonathan Spiteri now almost 2 seconds back, but John Paul Vella goes around the outside of Paddock Hill Bend. Now we'll have to go around the outside of Druids, 3 wide over towards Druids. Christian Sammet trying to be resolute, finding that, muscles his way through. John Paul Vella loses out. Dens sneaks on by, looking at 4th, but Adrian Zoom tries to throw it back at Graham Hill. No dice there, falls back into 5th.
I'm surprised the car has not been turned around here. There's been so much happening in this race, so much mayhem, but they've just about managed to survive. Unfortunately, we've had 2 DNF, a couple of drivers potentially pulling into the pit there. John Paul Vella now with a half a second penalty. Unfortunately for him, he will look to drop behind now Carly Guanez in for the battle for P6 in this place. But yeah, it's not been the best race here for John Paul Vella. Meanwhile, Christian Sammet, another championship contender, runs in 3rd. That's big. That's half a second there for Alex, but it's not enough for Jonathan Spiteri to pull up to his gear, well, I say to his gearbox, to his rear bumper, I should be saying. So it's not too much of a problem, but he does not want to be doing that again.
Well, getting that run, getting that understanding, I think you start to really notice where all of the amazing talent comes in. Yes, Alex will drop a bit of time out there, but that 2.5 second gap that was formed there gives you all that you need to know, and then some. Adrian Zoom now with half a second's worth of penalty, and Colin Guanez might be on for a top 5 here if he gets himself into position to go and strike. So there are big moments out there, but Jonathan Spiteri, I think, has sat and gone and done everything he can, but Alex has got the gap, and I think that's the difference maker there that we've seen out there at the front. It's still 2.3 seconds. It's still enough to deal with here, and even though Jonathan Spiteri has just put his fastest and the fastest first sector out there, there is not much that he can do to chase that 2.3 seconds down. That will feel like a light year for him, as he's still purple as he heads to the middle sector, and now overdriving the car as he takes a little bit of grass clippings along with him.
Yeah, that's going to cost him about, that's about 6 seconds there. And now with the poor run he's got, he's bled that gap away down to 3 seconds. It requires something, a miracle for JS90's Jonathan Spiteri to put himself into a position where he can get onto the back there of Ayrton Birmingham. Birmingham would even get a second penalty, and even that would not do anything to that gap. Barely a scrape on that gap. And Sammet there currently continuing out in P3. He'll be very happy with that. 2 P3s, but he will look to drop out of the championship contention, leaving it just to our final 2 who are running P1 and 2 in this race here at Brands Hatch. We enter the final 4 minutes here. It's been a brilliant race here at Brands Hatch, and once again this race circuit down in Kent very much delivering.
Yeah, so it's all been Ayrton Birmingham here today, and even though that gap looks like he's getting better and better on time, he knows that he still has to deliver. He is still 3.5 minutes away from getting the result that he needs. A 32.5 in his back pocket says that that is the quickest that he has done in this race, the quickest of anyone. He knows that Jean-Paul Vella is back in 6th position, has had a torrid time of things here today. He knows that Christian Samet has consolidated 3rd out there, but his points haul is now going to be over 30 points back with 1 race left, or 2 races left to go, 1 round left to go. And Jonathan Spiteri is currently staring down the barrel of being 24 championship points behind, with 1 race meeting left to attend, and that will mean that Addicts could wrap this up as early as race 9 if it stays like this. So it will need a modern miracle here for Jonathan Spiteri, because he knows that his pace today, not enough. Ayrton Birmingham has simply been top dollar.
Yeah, he absolutely has, and it's been so impressive to watch Ayrton Birmingham really push the limits of this circuit. And of course, like I said, I did think he would push his way through, but I thought it would be around about the 40th to 16th minute where you do it. But no, he's done that a little bit more early than I expected. But it has been so deserved. He had been put on the back foot, especially in those early stages, but he's really managed to conquer all other drivers and put himself into a position where now you can see that Jonathan Spiteri is still overdriving the car 4 seconds back, and he's doing little to nothing on that gap that Ayrton Birmingham has. He's just been another class above the rest of the field. JS19, of course, has been up there, thereabouts, but it's just not quite gone his way, as Christian Samet has actually made a mistake here. That's really
Wow.
away from our vision here. And he's dropped all the way down to 7. What seemed to be a very easy P3 has now become 7th.
Wow. And Christian Samet there does not often make those sorts of mistakes, and I think that's why we didn't notice it in the immediacy. Down the inside of Ivan Birmingham, easy as you like, gets 1 back, so that's him to P6, but P5 he'll be looking at, and he's given himself no time to react to that mistake. Oshbert Zverev here, who was down in 12th, believe it or not, earlier on in this race, and a long way back of everyone, has clawed his way back to P5, and Jean-Paul Vella, who is now up into 4th position, is going to be smiling about. Inguanet has really dropped back as well. He's now in P8, so now you start to look around. Denzel Agius is going to steal a podium here in this one, and he's been up and down and all around in terms of this race. And when you look at that as we enter the final lap here, Adam, he's going to be laughing to the bank in that P5 scrap.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and I think that Entelagi has done some absolute incredible things all throughout this race. As you say, he's not been one of the fastest drivers in this championship, but he has kept himself patient. He has done the job at hand and put himself into a brilliant position where he's now 4.5 seconds ahead of Jean-Paul Vella. He just has to keep this on the road at this moment in time. You see there climbing over the crest here, Jean-Paul Vella, he can't do anything about that. He's just got to sit now in P4, so that should now narrow our championship down to our final 2 who are currently up in the front of the field. But this is the main battle we're seeing. But on to this final lap of this race, this is one that has done so well, and probably been one of the best races, I'd say. But Tokyo Express, I think Expressway has been the one where it's really come together.
It's been simply dominant here from Ayrton Birmingham. 1 win in the main, 1 win comes along in the sprint. Race clear with 2 races to go. Addicts takes the victory. Jonathan Spiteri has limited the damage, but limiting the damage is not what the doctor ordered here today. And a great podium from Dens, who picks up 3rd overall, and that will help his top 5 championship aspirations as the final lots of drivers go through. 6th for Christian Samet is a big blow for him in that 3rd place scrap. We thought that it was safe, and ultimately not, but give a little bit of credit here to Adrian Zoom. He held half the race from pole, out there in front, P10 only as he crosses the line, as Ilwindi does retire with a lap to go. So there are your drivers there, and there is your winner, Ayrton Birmingham, at his absolute best, getting that done. There is the confirmation of result there, Adam, and 6.5 seconds doesn't do justice how hard he had to fight in the first 10 minutes.
No, absolutely, it doesn't, and it's been an absolute thriller there for Ayrton Birmingham. I've been so impressed. We already know that he's a fast driver. That is just another level, and this is why he's the championship leader by a clear amount of points, and he will take that potentially round 9 of the championship. All he needs to do is pretty much gets qualifying bang on, and it is pretty much almost wrapped up from there. Just keep on the road, and he's done it.
He's just got to finish ahead of Jonathan Spiteri now. At this point, it's 23 championship points for a race win. And very crucially, in race 2, you only get a maximum of 20 points. So he's got to stay 20 points ahead in the main race, which comes along at the Nürburgring in 7 days' time. And if he can stay ahead by at least 20 points, he will confirm the championship. But the big key is going to an R34 Skyline. That drives differently to everything else we have seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a whole different kettle of fish when we do get to the Nürburgring. Of course, it is going to be a really really interesting car. Of course, with its turbocharged 2.6 liter inline 6 car. Of course, it's very similar to the car we just used. It is going to be front wheel engine with all wheel drive. So very much be prepared for that. It's very much something to look forward to. And another car where not a lot of drivers know how to drive it, so it'll be a lot of effort to try and get round those how to drive cars, because they all have those little things here and there that make it so unique and special. So I really do think that's going to be some really really interesting points with those ones.
Yeah, and you can catch that with us in just 7 days' time. You can join that with us here at Velocity Esports Racing. Do all the fantastic YouTube things if you haven't already. Like, share, subscribe, follow, all of that. Ring the bell for notifications to make sure that you are not missing out on some great sim racing action. From Adam Reed and myself, Jake Sperry, this is a Velocity Esports production show brought to you in collaboration with GamingMalta, Motors Inc., Intercomp, Sunshine Snacks, Level Academy, and with JACAP. The Asphalt Kings JDM legends are proving here that when you get a known quantity like Brands Hatch, it is simply all about who can stand head and shoulders above the rest. Ayrton Birmingham is marching towards a title, and he could do so with a race to spare. Will it be him finding what he's proved all season long, or is this going to be a case where the likes of Jonathan Spiteri finds a little miracle when it comes to racing action next time out? We head to the home of sim racing to end this championship. We'll see you in 7 days when a Nürburgring sprint tracker brings itself into full view.